So, MJ, good to see you again.
It's about a year ago that we had a chat the
Really?
last time. Yeah.
That long? Well, a lot of people ask after you and see how you're going, so
Thank you.
there's people out there that
Yeah.
care. So, yeah, thanks for taking the time. And just for people who haven't watched our previous videos, just if you could just tell us, how long have you been in Paraguay for?
Okay. All up now permanently, close on probably going my 4th year now.
Yeah. And you've got a property and settled down pretty much. And
Yes.
a business.
We own a house on Costa Lago.
Yep.
We are busy renovating the house. We're not living in it yet, and we are renting at the moment. And then my son also owns a car rental company, Rental Autopie. And we started, when you interviewed us, we were still struggling to get going. And we went from 2 cars, we're now up to 7 cars. Yeah.
Cool. Today, I thought what might be cool is, you and I contact each other regularly and have a bit of a natter, sometimes a bit of a whinge.
And also a vent, we vent at each other sometimes, because it's normal when you've moved so far to a new land, you get frustrated, you just don't know how things always work.
Totally. And so I thought amongst all that, it might be good just to fire up the camera and just talk about some things that, have been topical and that you and I have recently talked about.
Thank you, yes. And I feel strongly about those things, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I think it has a potential to really affect us negatively.
Yeah.
If we don't check it quickly.
But there's been a discussion in the forums in recent days about the issue of being intercepted by police, being pulled over at road stops. I'm not going to put too fine a point on it, but suffice to say, someone's complaining about the way that these things sometimes go down in a place like Paraguay and other places.
Yeah.
And, they seem to be trying to rally a bit of a, spirited movement, or at least huge discussion about it. Now, I have a position on this topic. What's your feeling about that tendency for the foreigner voice, again, to be sort of ramping this particular issue up?
Okay, I mean, not only foreigners, but also locals will tell you they do have a complaint sometimes with the traffic police. Let's be very clear. They don't pull you over and shoot you and beat you up and take your vehicle.
Yeah.
It's all, in a manner of speaking, done with a lot of jest. And it's now up to you to say, look, if I've done anything wrong, let me pay the fine. It's called a multa. They've got to produce it and you've got to pay it. They're not going to lock you up. They're trying their luck. And when you say they, it's not all of them. I remember one night many years ago, I was lost in a bad part of Asuncion. And the next thing, this motorcycle came behind me and flashed its light and blue lights. It was a Lince. And this guy came right up to my window. And he said, "What are you doing here?" And he obviously immediately saw I'm a foreigner. And I said, "I'm stupid. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm lost." He said, "You mustn't be here. Please follow me." And he took me out of there. He didn't ask for anything. He did it. He did what an honest policeman would do.
Yeah.
So in any country, you have pluses and minuses. You have differences in approach. I mean, what happens if you're a foreigner, you've never been to America, you don't know how America works. You go to America and a policeman pulls you over and you stupidly get out of the car and reach for your license in your pocket. You might get shot. Here, it'll never happen.
No.
Now, will they ask you for something? It's not so much just money. Sometimes, I even travel sometimes with a pack of terere with me. And if they stop me on a long distance, they say, you want some tea? Yes, please. But you know what? They'll still check my documents and see if it's okay. I mean, they're not going to just let me off the hook that I might be a wanted person for that. But I think the idea that the police are just out there to get you, foreigner, is not true. I mean, that's just not true. Sometimes they'll try their luck with everyone. And I think it's wrong. You see, it makes us think that, corruption in this country, yes, there is a lot of corruption. There's no ways of getting around it. But corruption isn't everything in a traffic stop. And there are mechanisms of complaint, correctly. But it's not a unique thing you jump around Facebook and cry about.
Yeah. I find it kind of a little bit crazy that the countries that we come from and the way that people are treated in the countries that we come from now, that we would come to a country like this and somehow claim that we have an expectation of ethical behaviour across the board from our officials, because that reality went away quite a while ago, and now it's really
it's global.
Yeah,
you know.
And so in a perfect world, everyone would behave perfectly, but it's not perfect. We've got to work with what we've got, and in this case, as newcomers here, if there's ways of things happening in countries, well, that's the country, and you've got to change. You know, like the country's not going to change around us.
No.
But the other point I make is that I don't know what people would prefer. I know what I would prefer. If you get pulled up and one way or another it costs you a small amount of money, whether it's to a fine or in other ways, I would prefer that over having an electronic reading device that goes off every time I go past an e-tag or a toll. Because I know, say, for example, in Melbourne, you can drive around Melbourne. At the end of the day, you can have a ridiculous
imagine that
toll bill.
You
haven't even brought your wallet out,
but
you've just thrown a whole lot of cash down to a multinational company that has absolutely no right in charging you, but because, hey, of corruption, they've gotten into the ears and pockets of the governments who run these shows. So my point is, it's just kind of really disingenuous that I think as foreigners, we come to a country like this and we kind of get our high horse as though
exactly it
as
just
though
doesn't make compute.
As though there's a world where somewhere where you're not getting touched up. You are going to get touched up. This is planet Earth, but you know, all things balanced and considered, Paraguay you get off really lightly.
Well, and exactly.
The other point that I make is that there's actually a lot of really good police here. And I've had a lot of really good police experiences.
Generally, my experiences with the police, the bomberos and the patrulera has been very positive.
Smiling.
Generally.
And there's like about 4 or 5 things that you have to be aware of, and we've spoken about those in previous videos. I'm not going to talk about it now. That there's 4 or 5 things that you have to be sure that you have correct when you pull over. And if you're sorted, if you're correct, you're good to go.
You're good to go, absolutely.
Like, it's not like you're going to get leaned on for things that you haven't done. Whereas in most parts in the Western world now, you could buy a new car, drive it off the lot, and 5 kilometres down the road, they could do you for a run road with you.
Yep, exactly.
Because there's one way or another, they can find something. So we live in a relatively simple society where the worst case scenario, we're going to have to fork out a few bucks one way or another.
Being in the car rental business, we've had 2 incidences, and that's really interesting. First of all, we always tell our customers, please understand, if you don't have your lights on, guess what? They're going to pull you over. They will. But not only you, because you're a foreigner. They can't see you're a foreigner when you're sitting in the car.
No.
They'll pull anyone over. And they know they've got the full force of the law behind them, and you're going to have to pay one way or the other, whichever way you choose.
Yeah.
There's just no getting around that. And we've had customers not turning their lights on and phoning us and saying, well, what now? I'm like, well, pay up. Yeah, but I didn't have my lights on. Yes, I know. We told you to. It's in the contract. Did you read? Yeah. Okay, I guess I'll have to pay up. Yeah, pay up. Get on with it.
Yeah.
And the other time, we had a person call us. In fact, one of the guys that I took the car away from him, I wonder if he's ever going to watch this. We'll probably, if it does, we'll hear the comment. That'll be funny. And he calls us, and he's in a complete state. He says, oh, he's in this horrible car. It's the one that I came here with. Never been used in Paraguay. There's nothing wrong with that thing. He came here, and he's just been pulled over by the patrulera, and they've arrested him. Now, understand, to be arrested in Paraguay is actually a serious job for the police. They can't just arrest you. They need the fiscal, which is a state prosecutor, or the attorney general. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're going to get arrested here, you must have done something seriously wrong. There's a dead body lying in the back of the car.
Yeah.
Or you're dragging someone on a chain behind your car. I mean, this is like, well, there's a whole case of Coke on the back seat. It's not, you're going to get arrested.
Yeah.
You know, that's the last thing on anyone's mind.
Yeah.
So for him to say he's arrested and screaming and going mad, then eventually we said, listen, just do me a favor, hand over the phone to the patrullera. And the lady that works for us, Suri, spoke to them because she speaks, she's Paraguayan. She speaks Paraguayan. And she laughs. She says, the policeman is just asking for the cedula verde, which is a green card.
Yeah.
And is asking for the habilitación.
Yeah.
And we said, just give it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what if they take it? They're not going to take it.
Yeah.
They've got to check it.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
So he gives it to them. The policeman checks, says, oh, fine, you can go.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
But all that screaming and shouting and going off on the patrullera because they singled you out.
Yeah.
They didn't.
No.
They do traffic stops. They'll ask for certain documentations. And if they're not in order, well, there's an opening gambit.
Yeah.
I want to fine you.
Yeah.
You've got two choices, pay the fine or negotiate.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. And it's simple. It's not rocket science,
No, it's not.
you know. And I mean, imagine, as you say, driving through Melbourne and getting a bill of a couple of $100 because you were lost in town and you had to pass through the same camera 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's outrageous.
It's completely outrageous,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
If you drive in, let's say, I'm not an Australian, I've never been to Australia, I can't comment. But let's say if I drive in Australia and my lights don't work and I'm driving at night without lights, obviously the police are going to pull me over. There's a good chance they might actually impound the vehicle.
Yeah.
A very good chance.
And there's a good chance that it will probably cost you around the sum that it would have cost me to buy my car, in terms of
Quite possibly.
or more.
Yeah. Now I'm complaining that here they pull you over and say, hey, you know, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And you might have that self-same patrullera trying to fix your lights,
Yeah.
crawling in underneath your hood, seeing if he can't connect up the... And he might say to you, hey, look, you can't really drive without lights. I'm
Yeah.
very sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not impounding your vehicle, but I'm not letting you drive.
Yeah.
You've got to phone family, phone a mechanic to stay here. Hey, by the way, have some tereré while you're waiting.
Yeah. The other topic that I wanted to touch on, and it kind of, I guess, relates to this in as much as people's perception about what's going on in Paraguay. And you often see things posted, or questions or criticisms about what people are seeing in Paraguay, particularly in the political sphere, and how there's a concern that Paraguay is going down a certain path in terms of its global orientation. And, you know, for example, there are data centres, I believe, that are coming this way, and those sort of things. And, you know, I'd be interested in your take. That I try and assure people that, you know, we live in planet Earth, and Paraguay is part of that reality, that Paraguay would only be a fool that would try and sell the notion that Paraguay is divorced from the realities of what's going on in the global sphere. But what I always try and also reassure people about is that, in my opinion, the victory that you are most realistically able to shoot for are those personal freedoms that you can still enjoy in a place like Paraguay. And as long as that keeps going, I have a good life. You know, we live in a house where I can do what I like. I drive down the road, I'll never get hassled. You know, there are so many freedoms that we have here that, yeah, I'm fully aware of the greater machinations of what's going on in the heavens, but we have to be realistic, don't we, about the degree to which we can expect Paraguay to be immune from the realities of what's going on in the world. And not expect too much, because it comes to a point where it just gets a little bit silly if people think that they're going to come somewhere that's just totally immune.
The first basic thing that we have to accept, Paraguay is part of the world,
Yeah.
Paraguay is not an island in the world; it is part of the world.
Yeah.
If you look at its agriculture, now I'm not talking about the guy growing a wilted carrot. I'm talking about there's a mega agricultural industry here, huge. That's definitely a video for another time for what these people have achieved. And where does this food go? So it goes globally, from China to Europe to the Middle East to, I mean, every single way. Now imagine a cow ending off in the Middle East. That thing has got to be slaughtered in the halal rights. Okay, I suppose the Chinese don't bother about that, and Europe would be probably about 50-50 now. I don't know. But there's also the seeds that's going out. You know, when they have crops of soy, so they trade with the world. Secondly, many years ago, Paraguay had a complete, total, utter banking collapse. The banks here now are very closely watched by the Feds and the IMF, and they have to comply to all the international rules and regulations, the SWIFTs and the, know your customer, all the whole 9 yards. It's part and parcel of it. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So you're not immune to that. Definitely not. No. But do you have personal freedoms in that bigger thing there? Do you have personal freedom? Is your life going to change? I don't see a radical change in life. Look at Paraguay and look at the Colorado Party. It's been around for the last probably 100 years. And of that 100 years, they've probably been in charge for the last, 70, 80 years. And they had a short spell, a left-wing spell with a president called Lula. The military kicked him out very quickly. It's still the Colorado Party. And people don't forget, you see, when Stroessner was the dictator, the Colorado Party was still the only legitimate party. So the structures of the Colorado Party never changed. So in that sense, the political concept of Paraguay has remained very stable. It hasn't gone left-wing, right-wing. It's not like Argentina, for example. Right now, everybody is raving about Milei. But believe me, there's a lot of lefties sitting in Argentina crying for their gravy train that's gone. And he's facing one of his lowest popularity ratings at the moment. Brazil, we had a very strong right-wing president in charge. He was replaced again. Lula came back into power. There's Lula today right there back in power. So, left, right. That's what happens in Latin America. This one has been very stable. But I do believe we are part of the world. And I do believe, obviously, internet connectivity has really increased. It's always increasing. More and more people in rural areas are getting it and they unfortunately getting their facts from TikTok and Facebook and all of this. And there will be changes, and there could very well be changes. But will you have radical changes where there's like people in jail and fire and burning and God knows what? No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because this country still has enough for everyone. And there's a lot of decency. There's a lot of strong family values. And that does keep it together. I mean, I am personally no fan of the Catholic Church, believe you me. But you've got to be honest. In Latin America and in this country, they keep very strong ties and a very close family relationship. And for as long as that is the case, it's not going to change. It will change over time, yeah. In 20, 30 years, heck, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm dealing with a lot of younger people now. One young people are trying to get into the bulk business, Paraguayans, young people. And I'm talking to them, like 100% Paraguayan. And I see poverty, yeah. They don't have money. But I don't see them suddenly leaning towards socialism.
No.
I see them very much anti-certain corrupted things going on in government, which you get in any society anywhere in the world, and that's a good thing. And they want to definitely avoid that and change it. But I don't see a lack on their part for not understanding the basis of having money means hard work.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think also the rate of our tax basis is of such a nature that nobody is mad at each other. We don't have the world's best healthcare services for free. But we have free healthcare, not the world's best, not good. I'm not saying that, but at 10%, hey, what do you expect?
Yeah.
You get something. There is something.
Yeah.
And in a real critical situation, you might die. But if they can get you to a hospital, there's a good chance you won't die. They might sew on your hand a bit skew, but you're still going to have the damn thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of Paraguayans travel. A young Paraguayan might say, oh, let me go see what it's like in Buenos Aires. They go, oh, beautiful city.
Yeah.
Oh. And they buy their first meal next on the road. And they say, oh, my God.
Yeah.
And this is going to be bad.
The other thing that Paraguayans in general have is the advantage of seeing their society function under a very low tax base.
Absolutely.
And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And what's really interesting is the town that I live in, every service is far superior to a similar sized town that I lived in New Zealand. In fact, there's a number of services here that weren't even present in that town in New Zealand. But the tax rate was not, to say it doesn't compare is an understatement. So they're getting things done here at the current rate. Yeah, they can inch it up and all the rest of it, but it would be an impossible sell to turn around to Paraguayans and tell them that for some reason they had to tolerate anything vaguely like what people around most other, definitely Western countries are enduring. That's been a long mind mess operation that Westerners have been subjected to. Paraguayans haven't. So what are you going to do?
Exactly.
You can't just go from 0 to 100. And, look, the tax will probably go up. Things will get more expensive. They'll come up with nifty ways to reach into the people's pockets. But I think the people are far more savvy now.
No, they are. They're sharp in that.
Yeah.
And you take a basic thing, you talk like services. Think about fire services, the bomberos, firefighters in this country. They don't exist because they don't pay. They're all volunteers.
Yeah.
They're all volunteers. The equipment is all hand-me-downs from other countries, donated volunteer equipment. Here and there, the local government might donate a used pickup truck or something. So they are normally first responders in a serious car accident.
Yeah.
So on my road, the road from Ipacarai to Aregua, sometimes you can get a really horrific accident. I can't explain it. It's a dead straight road, but it does happen,
Yeah.
And one day we were there and this accident must have just happened because we stopped. And I was standing there next to and the next alarm, the siren came, and these bomberos jumped out with all this stuff, and they had their kit. And you could see it was hand-me-down kit, but the kit was fairly complete, and they were very professional doing the triage, isolating the neck. It was a motorcycle accident. Isolating the neck, and then getting the guys carefully on the stretcher. And then another ambulance came because they said, no, he must go straight to a specialist bones place, So he was placed on another ambulance. So what I'm saying is, if you look at that and you go 10%, it's like, oh my God, these guys are doing something right.
Yeah.
Now,
exactly.
It's not at warp speed. But what is warp speed? We waited, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
From the time the accident happened, someone on their cell phone, someone in Ipacarai.
Yeah.
For the whole business to happen, for the big Itagua Hospital ambulance to come.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that person is alive. Well, I hope so. But, if we have a similar accident in Europe, we might have a free medical system, and we might have it at warp speed. It might be better or whatever, but we've just put down 40% of our income as taxes for that. Stop saying, I want Paraguay as a plan B. For God's sake, you want to go to a country, what is your plan B nonsense?
Yeah.
You don't want to pay tax in your country, but you don't really want to pay tax here either.
Yeah.
But now you're crying the patrulera pulled you over. Because a patrulera salary a month is $250 about.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And now you're complaining he's pulled you over. He specifically targeted you out of the whole world.
Yeah.
Because you might have done something wrong. That's why he focused on you. And now you're stingy and you don't want to either A, pay your fine or either A, pay him. Come on. I mean, grow up. Now imagine you're a Paraguayan in government high up. Let's say you're in the Paraguayan tax office. And you go, oh, look at these people coming here. They don't want to pay tax. They want to have all of those benefits. They do nothing for us. We just give them papers.
Yeah.
And we have nothing from them. Why should we have these people? Now, if you take that and you flick that to the Brazilian that just dropped a $5 million tab on property for soya plantation, who do you want? I've got one thing is I can't take no for an answer. I had a hell of a time with getting proper banking facilities. I mean, I had a hell of a time. And eventually, in sheer desperation, I went and found out who the chairman of my bank is, the Gerente General. And I studied everything I could about him. I knew he spoke, for example, fluent English. I knew, for example, he was also in the International Monetary Fund, and he was in in a huge banking, foreign banking system in the United States before taking on this position. Because, hey, it's the CEO of a bank. And after a lot of going back and forth, I found him and I contacted him and I reached out to a very nice person. And he looked at my Quanto Basico and he came back to me and he said, all right, how do you expect me to give you full banking if you're not paying tax here? Where's your rook? How can I physically track your income? If I can't, I'm a banker, I've got to make a choice. Look at from my position. You telling me you're doing this because I just get a salary. I'm a normal bloke. I wish it was 100,000. My God, I'll be retired in 2 months'
You
time.
can make
That's all
that
I
profit
need.
in a morning, apparently.
Well, I need 2 mornings that I can retire for life. Then I'll send my next videos, guys, in a Speedo. And that clicked to me, that resonated with me. Now, for the business, we had to register the rook. Matt has a rook because he's running the business. He's getting paid from the business. I've got a rook. And the rook is a very good system because with a rook, when they issue your factura, whether you've been to the supermarket or you bought beers or whatever, everything goes through the rook. Now, in a year's time, you say, look, I want to borrow money to buy a house or to buy a car. They say, oh, that's your income because you had that money to spend. That's what you paid on your taxes and your VAT. So, yeah, you're good to go.
Yeah.
You have that money. You've got a provable history.
Gotcha.
It's very simple. It's not rocket science. And the whole Plan B thing is, for me, doesn't it sound scaly and underhanded? And it's like, oh, I just need, another. I left South Africa and I said goodbye. I came here. This is my new home, my new life.
Yeah.
What is your standard? You left your country. Why? Why did you leave your Plan A? Why are you here? Are you going to be part of this or are you not going to be part of this?
Yeah.
And I'm beginning to say, look, we need to learn that word more. FIFO. Fit in or you know the rest. But really, there's so many people here that make this noise, and it's not many. The loudness of the noise makes it sound as if it's many. But those few, I hope the director of migrations just gets up one morning and tosses the whole bloody lot on the first airplane out. And what I have observed is, firstly, obviously Paraguay has very diverse voices.
Yeah.
And you see, and most of the foreigner groups are within Facebook, and it's about expatriates. Expats in Paraguay, it has an expat angle to it. Now, in simple terms, for me, an expatriate is a person that goes for a certain amount of time to another country to work and live and complete a contract and then go home. We saw that a lot in the oil industry and in mining and that. They go with a set skill and they go and do something and they go back.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you get tourists. They go with their cameras, they take pictures and they look at them and they go back. And they have good or bad memories. That's irrelevant. The expats have good or bad memories, but they've been paid well to do it. And then you get the concept of the immigrant. And I think that's where one should possibly put a little bit more focus on. Because in my view, that's probably the important part of the foreigners in Paraguay, is the immigrant community. But saying that, I also believe very sincerely that the expat that's here for a short term, working online, only here for 2 years, the large number, or not the large number, or the number that there is, and the noise that's being generated sometimes creates confusion between the immigrants that wants to make this their home and others that sometimes end up really belittling and trashing this country. And that is something that is hard to distinguish if you only hear, oh, the foreigners in Paraguay say. You will normally find expatriates that's been here for more than 10 years, hardly ever commenting on a Facebook group. They're not even members of it.
Yeah.
In fact, they don't want to have anything to do with it because their lives are now fully embedded into Paraguay.
Yeah.
And these people are active contributors to the society, economically or whatever, and they're living and working here. And this group is really like as bewildered as a Paraguayan at the noisy group. Then furthermore, if you look further and you look at the group that truly matters, if you look at Brazilians own about 30% of agricultural land here. Their investments is huge. And these groups are very powerful, and their voice do matter, and they're a large chunk of it. But you never hear from them in a Facebook group.
No.
They don't have to be. They understand the culture, they understand the people, they largely can speak the language, or they can get by. Exact same applies to the Argentinians. So I think those are different groups, and I think the question is that we should figure out what are these noises doing and how can they affect us negatively, and that's what I'm concerned about, Adam. A lot of the expats that are here that come from the supposed first world, Europe and North America, in your case, Australia and so on, they come here, but they've left their societies also for very specific reasons. And those reasons cause them a lot of fear, a lot of it high taxation, things that just don't make sense anymore, and an infringement on basic personal liberties. And they want something better because they feel, hey, we are born free and we want to die free, right? So Paraguay is a very good choice for that. But what I found is that the issues that they had in those countries, a lot of them when they come here, they bring those issues with them and they make a lot of noise around those issues, which can be very difficult and challenging for Paraguayans to digest. Because essentially Paraguayans are very conservative people. They are, their culture is conservative, their households are conservative, they're very monogamous marriages. This country is not a country that's just socially tearing apart. It's very strong. Like any country on earth, this country also has prostitution. In fact, it's actually legal in this country. There's nothing against the law to be a prostitute. And there are red light areas and red light districts that you get in any big city or major town. But that doesn't mean that the country and the citizens are promiscuous.
Yeah.
On the contrary, the country and the citizens are very not promiscuous. Now, like in any society, you might have a person having a lover on the side, but it is in any society and in any country that is the case.
Yeah.
But not every single one has it.
No.
Not every single one does it. And Paraguayans are extremely, to the point of fanaticism, defensive about the health and well-being of their children.
Yeah.
They really, really are. We can have more healthy perspectives and have the right to disagree.
Yeah.
Have the right to have an opinion.
Yeah.
You and I have diametrically opposite views on religion. You know that. We have. However, it doesn't make us bad friends. It doesn't mean that there's many other things we can't agree on or see eye to eye on. The fact that we don't agree on one subject doesn't mean that I've written you off. On the contrary, it means, hey, what's that guy saying? Let me think about it more.
Yeah.
And vice versa, Yeah.
In time, you'll see.
I think so. I think so.
We'll see, huh? Okay.
Time. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks very much, man. And until next time.
Thank you, everybody.
Ciao.
Much appreciated. Thank you for listening to us. Bye-bye.